You're tuned in to BSing with Why Eagle Why, a veteran-run podcast cranking up the volume on stories, wild ideas, and straight-up fun. No scripts, no filters, just real talk, big laughs, and a little chaos along the way. Grab your drink, turn it up, let's rock this BS together. If you'd like to keep up with the upcoming shows and events, head on over to our brand new website, bsingwithwhyeaglewhy.com, and subscribe. I want to give a big shout out to Ed, the man behind Static Shift Radio, holding it down for rock artists and keeping the scene alive. Go show him some love and check out the website where you can find Static Shift Radio station and upcoming events. That's staticshiftradio.com. Now rolling with me, as always, is my co-pilot on the mic, the one and only the Ferg. Also, Reggie the Great, beach creator from Colorado. And we can't forget the man behind the magic, Disease, the producer. He's the wizard on the boards, making sure all this chaos sounds smooth, sharp, and ready for your ears. Now, I have a real important announcement right before we bring on our special guest. We have a veteran that reached out to me a couple days ago, and he's doing a sponsorship for other veterans and their child for hunts. And I'm a man of my word. I told him I would show his post. So, Joshua, stay-at-home dad. Y'all can go to his Facebook page, and as you can see, he's doing a sponsorship so that another veteran can take their child on a hunt this year. They're doing, it's called Felicity Cape Hunting Memorial. You can see the Cash App if you want to make donations for this hunt, or you can go buy a tumbler. Now, as promised, joining us today is Bob James, Marine veteran and rhythm guitar powerhouse of Silent Theory. He brings the grit, the riffs, and the stories you don't want to miss.
How's it going, guys?
Hey, how's it going, Bob? Thanks for being on the show today, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah. Glad to have you.
So, Bob, doing a little research, back in 2010, and I'm pretty sure I came across your music because in 2010, I was just getting out of the Army, and I was listening to rock. But what I did see is that you had a little vocalist changes from Nick Osbourne, Sean Walker, and now Dakota. You've been with Silent Theory through these different vocalists and the transitions. So what was the period like for you personally, and how did you adjust musically to keep the band moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I guess kind of little background, like you said, I've been with the band for a while. So Mitch, Scott, and I were actually in a project together called Faded, and we did that for a couple of years, and that had run its course. And Nick had been a part of that too, I guess. And so that was one of those, like, we were trying to decide whether we want to keep doing music or not. And, I guess at this point, clearly we decided we did. And so, we kind of reformed some things. We kind of changed the style of music we were playing a little bit. And yeah, so that became like the first version of Silent Theory was Mitch Swanner, myself, Scott Swanner, Nick Osbourne, and I was on bass, Scott was on guitar. And we did that for a little while, and as we started putting things together, we started looking towards recording an album. And then around that time we brought George in, who's the third Swanner brother, because completely honestly, he's a far better bass player than I am. He plays piano, and he just had a lot of skill sets and stuff that we definitely needed. So I shifted over to guitar, and we wrote our first album. And I think the biggest difference between now and then is that at the time, Mitch and I wrote all of the lyrics. So for anybody who's ever listened to Black Tie Affair, I apologize. The lyric writing has gotten exponentially better since we brought Dakota in. But yeah, so we did a big tour in like 2012 to kind of support that album, and it was a real steep learning curve because that was our first tour. And after that, we ended up parting ways with Nick because he had some different stuff going on in his life with family and work and stuff like that. And um, then we kind of went through this audition process that lasted a really long time, or it felt like forever. And we had, you know, auditioned to like probably 10 different singers, and
Oh,
they
wow.
all were great and brought different things in, but like it just wasn't quite the right fit. Um, and I don't yeah, I don't know. It was just one of those, like, we started, like, wondering, like, whether it just wasn't in the cards for us and stuff, and we thought we'd gotten a breath of fresh air with Sean Walker. He was with us for, about 6 or 8 months, and there was a lot of creative differences and just, things like that, and I don't know. I mean, great dude, talk to him all the time. It just wasn't the right fit. And so after that, we kind of sat dormant for like 6 or 8 months, and we were starting to like, well, I mean, maybe that's our sign from the universe and stuff. And then it just happened to be that, Dakota's dad worked with like one of Scott's wife's friends. Like we didn't know who Dakota was. He lived in Boise. We were about 6 hours away. And yeah, it was just one of those like, oh, my son's a singer but doesn't have a band, and we're like, and she's like, well, I know this rock band that doesn't have a singer, and I mean, from the get, like Dakota was just, it was clearly he was the one, and he was the piece we were missing because like he showed up well, first off, we were just on a whim, like, hey man, we know we're complete strangers, but you want to come spend the weekend with us? And so he
Nice.
drove up and came to practice, and like the first time we ran through a song, we're just like, oh, this is what it's supposed to feel like. And it's just been going, Mach 10 since then.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's real awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this is going to kind of piggyback on that a little bit because when I wrote my interview questions, I decided to start a little different than I do most interviews. You guys formed obviously in 2010, and it was 7 years after that that you finally started to get some real recognition with your song Fragile Mind. But the song I wanted to mention is your song Shaking Cages. The lyrics say, I'm going to keep lighting fires till someone finds us. I'm going to keep shaking cages till bars unbind us. Was that reflective at all of the band's determination to keep going until you became successful? Kind of piggybacking on what you were saying. I mean, was that reflective of the band's state at that time, or at how far you had come? And talk about the writing process on that. I really love that song.
Yeah, absolutely. That is 100% what Dakota's kind of inspiration was, I mean, whatever your industry is, like there's always going to be a lot of frustrations and uphill battles, but it definitely, there has been times where it's like, if you guys don't like us, just tell us you don't like us, because like sometimes when you're working with like radio or labels and stuff like that, they're like, oh well, your YouTube numbers are great but your Instagram numbers are, and so you work on getting your Instagram, like you just hit the grassroots and try and get that up, and then you talk to somebody else and they're like, well, I mean, your Instagram numbers are great, but what about your Facebook? And like the joke that we have
Right.
going is like, oh, but what about your Foursquare numbers, which is a really old school reference for, but it's just like, it's like, if you don't like it, just say you don't like it. Like, what's this weird runaround? And so there was just a lot of that kind of frustration that went into writing those lyrics. Yeah, it's just, I mean, because we, for a long time, did everything ourselves, like, learned a lot of hard lessons along the way, worked with some good people, worked with some not so great people. And yeah, that was definitely kind of a culmination of like, bah!
Right. Heck yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
well, Reggie, you got a
So like you said, being away from family and going on this tour run, when we were looking at the schedule, even I was like, damn, that's a lot of days in a short amount of time. So what has the road been like? I see you're on a bus now, so you guys just running around. Are you practicing before you do a show or just a regular sound check? What's the setup like for a tour like that?
Yeah, so yeah, we definitely, we all have family back home. I'm the only one who doesn't have kids, but that's by choice. And so my wife and I have our, 2 dogs, 5 cats, and 8 acres and stuff. But all the other guys
Oh,
have
yeah.
little ones back home, and we all have, just different things going on. And so we try and balance the family life with the band life and stuff. And So we definitely try and make the most out of the time that we're away. So we typically will try and book tours that are, 2 to 3 weeks long and just pack as many shows in there, which is incredibly exhausting and, definitely can take a toll on things like Dakota's voice sometimes, but we just try to be really careful about like, our day-to-day activities to make sure we're preserving that. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, like it's not too bad, especially when we get to tour over here on the East Coast, because a lot of the shows are just a couple hours away and stuff. We
Right.
do have a couple of really long like marathon runs on this because uh, booking was kind of weird with some of the dates, and so we ended up crisscrossing more than we would have liked. But yeah, I mean, we all kind of have like our own thing for the most part. Like, well, the bus is generally pretty quiet, mostly because people are either sleeping or reading books or whatever. But we do have the satellite and the TV and stuff like that, so we'll probably be watching a lot of football games today. Um, and yeah, it's usually just pretty chill. We do have the bus, but we do also because we have 5 of us and we have 3 people riding with us on this run, and sometimes it's more than that and stuff like that. So we still typically stay in hotels because that's the other part is like, I mean, we're already pushing ourselves quite a bit, so we figure we might as well make sure we're getting good sleep. And also, like, at this point in my life, I really need that shower every day. So,
Yeah.
that's that kind of stuff. So yeah, we definitely try and find like the downtime in the travel, but it can definitely be a long run sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
That's
You're
dope.
you're going from being a Marine to now you're traveling again. So I
Yeah,
mean,
at least I'm inside of the bus and not in the back of like a 7-ton or something.
hell yeah. So now Silent Theory originally signed with Turkey Vulture Records, is that correct?
Yeah.
And I think after doing the national tour, y'all decided to part ways. Was that like a mutual thing, or is it just best for growth on your part, or?
Yeah, I mean, we're still really good friends with the people that run that little group, and it was definitely a good learning experience. And they helped us get our first album, Black Tie Affair. They helped us get that recorded and put out and everything. So, definitely grateful for that. But I think it was one of those where like the contract was expiring, and we kind of just started looking other directions, just for growth purposes. So,
Yeah.
yeah, no hard feelings there, but. Yeah.
All right. Well, I would like to ask another question. I know I'm stepping over there, Ferg, but do you mind if we play one of your songs on the podcast? That way, for viewers, a lot of people. The whole reason we do these podcasts with rock bands or other bands or other genres is to be able to get you out there. And we
Absolutely.
charge nothing. We charge nothing. We just talk. We enjoy speaking with the bands. And I know that I've went out and I have a day job as well on top of my podcast. So I asked a few guys and I'm like, hey man, you ever heard of Silent Theory? So out of the 10 people that I've asked, I would say 2 people was like, yeah, man. So what I try to do is play a song, usually of your choosing, Bob.
Yeah.
And then people get to hear your music down here, you know. And what I like, and see, Reggie's from Colorado, and Ferg's from Tennessee. So we try to, share the love, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm 100% down. Always, willing to put the music out there for people to listen to.
Is there a song in
Well,
particular that you would like to let them listen to?
Yeah, let's see. Not knowing your crowd super well. I don't know, because I think, yeah, especially since you brought up Shaking Cages, that's always a
yes.
great song. A lot of people love that song. That's a big fan favorite at shows. But I'd say if you had a more heavy crowd, you could also go with Made Me This Way. Um,
Heck
Yeah.
yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah. All right.
We are the heavy crowd.
Yeah.
Well, pretty much.
Yeah. Physically and mentally.
Me too.
Yeah. Do you guys hear it? No? Let me try something here. Sometimes when they update
Interview.
Riverside, man, it, all right, let's try it. Can y'all hear it? Good.
It's pretty fucking sick.
That's great
Yeah,
stuff.
man.
That's great stuff.
You guys are awesome, dude.
Yeah, that's
Like
how
I
we've been
love
opening
all
this.
your songs.
Yeah.
Well,
That's the song we've been opening the set with, and it's for the fans, but also for us because it's just a fun song to play and gets us all jazzed. So
Heck yeah. Get you
well,
amped
yeah.
up. Bob, you guys are from Moscow, Idaho, which has a thriving music scene. They're known for the Lionel Hampton uh, International Jazz Festival every year, and of course the School of Music there at the university. And they've got Rendezvous in the Park. They've got a lot of things going on there musically. The Palouse region bands and so forth. How much was that music scene, if at any? How much was that an inspiration to you guys? How much did that influence you musically?
honestly, not a whole lot, if we're being completely honest. I mean, there is a really great scene as far as that goes, because like you said, they have the jazz festival that brings in, college and high school students from all over the place, and it's a huge thing. And there is a lot of music in Moscow. A lot of it is like coffee shop, like singer songwriter kind of stuff. And I mean, I enjoy listening to that from time to time, um, but yeah, we are definitely kind of a sore thumb in that regard. Most of our home
Gotcha.
scene has been in kind of like the Spokane, Washington, Coeur d'Alene area.
Well, to piggyback on that, if I could, in your
Yeah.
bios, you guys also list that you've been influenced by many different styles, some 50s, 60s styles, some pop, punk, rap, hip hop, metal. So talk about some of those influences, and in particular, if you guys had any influences from the 50s, 60s, who would that be?
I think that is one of the fun things about this band because like we truly are a very eclectic group musically because like George does listen to some blues and jazz and stuff like that. He's bouncing around like uh sometimes he's real deep into country, sometimes he's real deep into like the modern rock. So, George definitely kind of like is probably the biggest question mark for all of us because he somehow brings all of those different like broad influences into the music. And he's really kind of a fan favorite with his energy on stage and stuff like that. But, the 50s and 60s stuff, I think we all kind of grew up with our parents listening to that. And um, I personally just like grew up with like this huge like admiration for like the Beatles and like, those kind of bands where you just have 4 or 5 people like harmonizing, all playing instruments, all doing like, and
Right.
just there's a real genuine musicianship to it that I really loved, where you don't always see in pop music and stuff today. And honestly, like with the pop punk influences and stuff like that, like that was kind of like my coming of age stuff. Like, me and my closest friend in high school, like that was just kind of our jam. Um, because it was,
Heck yeah.
high energy, kind of silly, a lot of times inappropriate and stuff. But I think what really sticks with me from those bands is like, uh, you know, they don't always play perfect live, but they always put on great shows. Like the energy is always like so high and just like I don't know. So that's something that I always try and aspire to is just kind of keeping somewhere between a 7 and a 10 the whole show. So
Heck
the
yeah.
people that are paying money to come see us are getting that experience because that's the least I can do. Um, but yeah, so I mean, obviously, when it comes to Dakota, like he definitely has a lot of those like rap influences, like especially if you listen to the Delusions, there's a lot of like Chevelle, Linkin Park,
Oh,
Tool, that
yeah.
kind of stuff in there.
Heck yeah.
Um, and his brain works in a way that he could take all that stuff and synthesize it into something a little bit special and unique for us. So yeah, I mean,
Well, I
I
can
don't.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I don't 100% know how the magic works, but I know that, yeah, it is one of the things that we love is that we all have real broad kind of backgrounds that aren't necessarily like there's always bands that cross over like Rush and things like that where like everybody's like, well, obviously they're one of the greatest bands of all time. So, um, but yeah, so I think it's just a little bit of magic in that regard, being able to synthesize that into Silent Theory.
Hell
That's
yeah.
amazing, and you definitely hear some of the Linkin Park influence and some of those other bands, and so that's really amazing that you guys are able to kind of pull all that together and add your own uniqueness to it and make something for the fans.
Yeah, absolutely.
How was
So
that?
I
How was
want
that?
to.
Oh, go ahead, Reggie.
I actually want to piggyback off of that. I've been waiting to ask. So with all of these influences swirling around, what's the writing and producing process look like for you guys?
Yeah, so I mean, we've done it a bunch of different ways over the years. Kind of like I mentioned earlier, like in the early days, Scott and Mitch pretty much wrote all the music, and then Mitch and I wrote all the lyrics. Um, and then we started kind of evolving a little bit. Like George got in the mix with like coming up with like piano riffs or bass lines or something like that we could build off of. And then ever since Dakota's been in the band, it's been a little bit more streamlined. Like we definitely always go with like group approval, but it's never like a real strong veto process. There's always just like a hey, that line feels weird to me. Like, what do you think about this? Or like maybe just rethink that one. But that's usually as much like editing as we give Dakota, mostly because we don't have to. Like he just shows up with great lyrics. But as for like the music, and the backbone of how we build the songs, I'd say real strong percentage, like probably 90% of it is going to be Scott, our lead guitar player, kind of like noodling around and coming up with riffs. But Mitch, our drummer, honestly, like he sits down and tinkers on the piano and the acoustic guitar, and Scott's been able to build off of a lot of that kind of stuff. I sent Scott a lot of things, and he is yet to respond. So I'm hoping that maybe one day I'll get an album on the record or a song on the record. But no, no, I have a lot of strong suits that I bring to the band, and so far songwriting has not been the greatest one. So I'm happy to yield that, because ultimately we want like the best product out there. And but I think what really was different on this last album, especially, is we've been doing it by ourselves for a better part of 15 years, and we really wanted to one, just kind of check in with like other people, the industry and stuff like that, and make sure that like we're still using best practices, or just see if there's any new like tips, tricks, tools out there that we could be learning from. So we actually did a decent amount of co-writes on this last album, with our producer Chris Dawson. He did some of the music stuff for us, but he also connected us with some different people. So yeah, it's an always evolving process, because we don't ever want to be stagnant and just be like, well, we wrote that one really good song, we should just keep writing that one really good song.
As a fan, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because I mean, and kind of to that point, like we're all fans of music, so I mean, we want to write albums that we want to listen to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Talk about your collaboration with Josie Scott from Saliva.
That was awesome. So we've been pretty lucky the last few years. We've been working with Paul Crosby, who's the original drummer of Saliva, and he's been managing us and helping us kind of navigate some of this stuff, and super good dude. And obviously him and Josie are really close and have been for, years. And so when we started toying around with the idea of like doing some collaborations and features and stuff like that, I can't name a person in the band who was not all over like every 6 seconds. And just those first couple Saliva albums are really like seared into my brain. So when Paul was like, hey, I no promises, like I don't have anything to do with the man's business, but like I could, if you guys have like a snippet of a song or something, I could float it over to Josie and see if he'd be interested. And it was a pretty quick yeah, this song sounds great, like I'd love to do it. And so that was a real cool like bucket list moment, in the sense that like like I said, Saliva was such a big band for us, and we've always felt lucky to be able to work with Paul, but to actually like stand in the studio and watch Josie like do his thing, and then get a chance to like BS with him and shoot a video and stuff. It was just really kind of humbling in a lot of ways, but it was really awesome to be able to have somebody of his caliber feature on a track with us.
Heck yeah.
That's a huge moment.
Yeah. So, Bob, do you ever have a moment on stage where you just lock in with the rest of the band and think, yeah, this is why I do it?
I would say that's kind of like one of the things that keeps us going, is like, I mean, if we're being completely honest, we don't practice nearly as much as we should. So, we typically, like, if we know we have a show coming up or a tour or something like that, we'll get together for a few weeks beforehand and do rehearsals and stuff like that. But there's just something in the chemistry here, and obviously 3 of the guys are brothers, and they've been playing music since they were old enough to hold guitars. I mean, there's pictures of Mitch playing drums at the age of 2, because their dad's also a drummer.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, like it's really in their blood. And I mean, I didn't know them until much later, but like I was kind of similar. Like I grew up, I mean, I have very vivid memories of like playing with toy guitars with like my my friend in the neighborhood, and like making our parents sit around in the backyard while we performed a concert. And then I went through like orchestra and stuff like that through high school. But yeah, I don't know, there's just something in the chemistry where like I think if we weren't able to lock in with each other, kind of like you were talking about, I don't think we'd be able to perform at the level we are. So there's a fun brotherly love to it. So like, we'll definitely be like in the zone doing our thing, and as soon as you hear like somebody like mess up or something is off, like there's always that like, I gotcha. So we try and keep it as light as
Mm,
possible
like-
because, you know, we've
So-
definitely had phases where we get really like annoyed with ourselves and everybody else and stuff like that. And so,
So
yeah,
like,
we try and
like
go
your
ahead.
family corrective criticism.
Oh, 100%. Like we are very much the family that like will call you on your BS, and then like, yo, if we are gonna have an argument, which we do about every 4 years, like we'll have the argument, say everything we need to say, and then we're like, all right, so where are we eating dinner? And like it's just like we don't got time to dwell on it. Let's get to dinner.
Hell yeah. That's how it's supposed to be, man.
Heck
How it's
yeah.
supposed to be.
That kind of answered one of my other questions without me asking it. I was going to ask a little bit about the creative process with there being brothers, because there's been a lot of successful rock bands that featured brothers, obviously Van Halen, AC/DC, the Kinks, you know, Greta Van Fleet, lots of different ones we can name. But I was going to ask about that, and you kind of answered that a little bit. So, on a flip side of that, the brothers, with all the brothers being there, anybody play any pranks?
Nothing that's like really noteworthy. I mean, we are always like messing with each other. Any chance we can get to ruffle somebody's feathers a little bit, we usually take that. But no, we're
Hell
we're not
yeah.
really big elaborate prank people. But yeah,
Got to keep it fun, man.
yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you guys have collabed and you mentioned a little bit with it. Talk a little bit about what Chris Dawson brought to the table as you guys were producing this album. You talked about Josie Scott and you mentioned Chris, but talk to us about the things that you learned during the process and then what he was just really bringing to the table that was unique that you guys had not done before in your previous albums.
You know, like the nice thing about Chris is when he's recording, like he doesn't over complicate things. Like he keeps it pretty simple. But you know, we had worked with a different studio and producer out of Spokane for our first couple albums, and we love how they turned out. We loved working with him. But Chris was kind of like the evolution to that next step because, you know, Chris definitely had like he works with a more modern sound that's a little bit heavier, a little bit more like on track with things like, you know, Octane and stuff like that. But he also had just a great track record. He'd been working with a lot of great bands, and so it was one of those like, you know, we'll go and do a couple songs and see how it goes. And then it was a really great partnership. Like we left there and he was like, hey man, like, I don't know what your guys' thing looks like, but I'd love to do an album with you. And we're like, okay, that's good. Cause we really enjoyed the way these songs turned out. So,
Heck
um,
yeah.
but yeah, I think it is helped us evolve a little bit because like we used to travel the whole band to the studio and we do the like, you know, this day was all day guitars and the next day was all day drums and stuff like that. And you know, there's still value in that, but like it is kind of nice because a lot of these last recent songs, you know, Scott's been able to do the recording at our spot, and then so we'll get like all guitars done, and then Mitch will lay down like the drums or at least like a skeleton for the drums and stuff like that. And then we can send that over to Dawson and he kind of does like a little cleanup and that kind of stuff. And then when we get there, it's really focused on doing a little bit of the producing thing of like, you know, moving some stuff around, adding and subtracting and stuff like that. And then most of the time is for Dakota to kind of like work on vocals, and that definitely takes a lot of heat off of him because he can just be in the like in the zone,
Heck
and
yeah.
then also just like not feel rushed or pressured because like we have 4 days for you to do 2 songs or something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, I do want to give a shout out right quick to, you know, Dakota, Mitch, Scott, George. You know, I know they're
Absolutely.
not on here, but Bob, maybe one day when y'all not touring, we can do another thing, get together again and have all the band members come on and we just shoot the shit, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I hate to leave people out, but I know y'all are very
Yeah,
busy.
you're not missing much.
But yeah,
We'll
man, I
tell
just
them you
want
said that.
just wanted to give a shout out. So, Reggie,
Now, I did hear you say that you guys don't practice as much as you should. But when you guys do practice, do you use a rehearsal space or how does that work? Does that involve part of the writing, building the songs, or do you just freestyle practice?
No, it all kind of depends. Cause like if we know we have studio space or studio time coming up, like we'll definitely be more intentional about working through ideas. But, um, no, we have a space that we use as like our office and, also have like a rehearsal area set up in there. So that is kind of nice having everything set up all the time that we can just walk into and practice. Um, and Scott and Mitch both work remotely, so they actually work out of that space because it's just a huge office space that they can work in. And so like Scott, a lot of times will be doing work, and then as soon as he's like done with work, he'll like pivot his chair and start working on like band stuff. So it's nice to have that space. But yeah, the practices are typically pretty well uh planned out as far as like I said, when we're getting ready to do shows or tours and stuff like that, like we'll actually like set up and run through the set list, once, twice, whatever, and then focus on any songs that we need a little bit extra work on. But usually we're just getting together and kind of running through everything to kind of just get that muscle memory built up.
So I kind of do the same thing. I turn around and the keyboard is right there, just in case. You never know when you need to land a riff.
Yep.
Yep. So now you had going over the singles and the releases in 2013. You had "Out of My Head" with the short-term vocalist Sean Walker. "Fragile Minds," man, that's one. If you pull it up on YouTube, man, y'all have millions of plays and views,
Yeah,
which I love that song.
it's wild.
But "Shaking Cages" 2020, Burn It Down" 2021, "Afterthought" was 2022, and "Embers" 2023 so far. So, and then you have the most recent album that you came out with, right? Was let's see,
Tell us that
Theoretically
again.
Speaking.
Yeah.
3.
Yeah. So, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. I was gonna let you talk about it.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, yeah, those Theoretically Speaking albums, kind of like we talked about earlier, like we all have a lot of different like musical passions, and so sometimes it's fun to be able to reimagine a song. Like those originally started off as doing acoustic stuff, because when we write songs, we do try and write stuff that like we can perform if power goes out or for a radio station or whatever the circumstance. We want to have something we can put forward, and if we're going to do that, sometimes we like to rework some of the songs to just kind of like explore different ideas. And so these Theoretically Speaking albums have been a great opportunity to do an alternate version, so to speak. Like some of them are a little more cinematic, some of them are acoustic. And this last one in particular, we did some more well, actually, I guess the Theoretically Speaking is still mostly that. We did collaborate with Crisp and Earl from Vera Union to do the Pardon Me cover, which was made my heart happy because I
love that.
saw Incubus on that tour like way back in the day. But yeah, it's kind of fun. And then in addition to that, with this last one, we did a bunch of like remix kind of things where we partnered up with some people like Daedric and Julian K and stuff like that, and just like, hey, here's our song. What do you like? What would you do with this? Like what? And basically gave them carte blanche to kind of just reimagine the song however they wanted. And so that was kind of fun to hear somebody else's like interpretation of a few of our songs.
Hell yeah. That was a
You
great
guys are
cover,
not
man.
afraid. No, go ahead. What you got, Robert?
Oh, I was talking about the cover, man. Pardon Me. Y'all done such an amazing job with that. Like,
yeah, we definitely wanted it to be like a very respectful, honest representation of the song. Didn't want to do anything too crazy with it because it's kind of perfect. So
yeah. Well, y'all done great, dude.
You guys are not afraid to express some deep, meaningful subjects in some of your lyrics, kind of like on the song 6 Feet Under, like addressing things like gun violence and so forth, and some of the things we've been seeing in our country. It takes a lot of courage to put that down and into songs nowadays and to be addressing stuff. I know a lot of bands have throughout the years, but I think it's pretty cool that you guys not only rock out and jam out, but some of the lyrics go pretty deep.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important that like we always try and maintain this stance of like, I mean, we're all averagely smart people. Like we have a few college degrees in the band, but that doesn't mean that we know the answers. And we certainly don't want to pretend like we do. But I think there are issues like, you know, gun violence in schools and things like that, that like we can all agree like that should be a you know, an issue for everyone. And so like we talk about things that are important to us and things that we are passionate about. But we try and do it from, you know, especially when we get into those type of topics, we try and do it from a place of like, we don't have the answers, but you know, we need to have the conversation.
Right.
So yeah, it's definitely just kind of like whatever is like sparking us at the moment. And truthfully, like sometimes Dakota has some really weird influences. So the song Fragile Minds kind of came out of he like was, you know, he's a real big like movie guy and like real big fan of the arts. And so like when Alan Rickman and Gene Wilder died within a couple months of each other, he was like super bummed about it. And like just one day it was just like, and wrote the lyrics for Fragile Minds. Has nothing to do with those two gentlemen, but it was just one of those like that like kind of sparked the emotion in him to write that song. So
Yeah.
sometimes we don't know where
Right.
it's coming from, but to your point, the songs like 6 Feet Under definitely are a little bit more on the nose.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of songs, Ferg took my question
Oh, I'm sorry, Reggie.
without knowing. So, at this point, I want to hear another song. Give me something heavy also.
Oh shoot. I don't know if it's my personal favorite, but there's a song that's been kind of an underground like creeper with a lot of fans off the last album called The Cracks. And that's definitely like a kind of a big departure from a lot of our other songs. So that might be a fun one to add in there.
Hell yeah. You gonna pull that up, Bob?
Pulling it up right now.
Good job.
You're always pulling it up.
My own. You see this kind of family, Bob.
Yeah.
That's the
Well,
BFing
just-
part of the podcast.
Reminds me, we were joking around the other day, and I don't remember how we got there, but I was like, well, if I don't touch it, no one will.
Well, we see we try to keep it interesting. So not only do we do interviews with bands, we also have a thing called open season, and it's all the guys get together. Even some of the band members we've interviewed over, you know, the amount of time, they want to get in on it, so they'll pop in, and we just bullshit and like, yeah, anything's game. All right, so you can about imagine where it goes. So, but we just have fun with it in between, you know. We change it up a little bit. So
Nice.
So, all right, man. Here we go. Oh.
Probably the best thing to keep it off my mind and get away. Probably the best thing to wear you right down and say. So now I finally kicked myself awake. I couldn't think it all came down to me. Struggling to think things will ever change. The part of me won't ever seem to go away. Gonna be buried on the way this time. I'm terrified, it's the suicide, cross the line. Well, I can try, but it's not enough to feel alright. You might have lied, and you made me feel the empathy and the enemy. And then I fell right down on it. You played me just the way I saw it go in my head. Can't let you off again. I found a new way to fill a void inside, a poison vine. Now the pills I swallow dry my eyes, counterweight for all the fucking parasites that cut and hide. They drain me dry, now I don't feel any empathy for you and me. And then I fell right down on it. You played me just the way I saw it go in my head. You let you off again. It's not like this, I get the shit has made you go insane. But I'm gonna be the problem, let that cinder float and burn your name. Shut up, tell me I'm I know you wanna bury what I say. Let go, there's gonna be another line. You've got another problem, no one gives a shit about your fate.
That is fucking awesome.
Man, that had an awesome
That's
bass.
amazing.
Like, just it come in. And I was
Yeah,
like,
there's like I said, it's a complete departure from a lot of the stuff we wrote, and Dakota was super passionate about adding that on the album. Yeah, I mean, people have really, really loved it. So we're not normally the blast beat kind of guys, but it works.
Heck yeah.
You know what? I'm a big fan of the crossing genres all the time, so I love it.
Nice.
I usually ask bands if they have a favorite venue, but you guys just played Louder Than Life. Talk to us about playing Louder Than Life and your experiences
Yeah.
and the fan reactions.
Absolutely. I mean, it was wild. I mean, we've played a few festivals over the years. Some of them are good, some of them bad. And this definitely was, I mean, it's almost comical how big it was. But I will say, you know, Danny Wimmer, for like whatever your thoughts or opinions on him, like I think that his team does two things really, really well. They focus on fan experience and band hospitality, and they do it better than anybody else. So like this festival was enormous. They had two gigantic main stages, and then they had like what a lot of people would call main stages. They had a couple of them staggered around. It kind of reminded me of the old Warped Tour days, where there's just like so many
Okay.
great bands playing like kind of all over the place. But like in between these different spots, they had just a ton of really great food and alcohol vendors. They had like people who were out there like doing like crafts and like different like services and things like that. Like it was pretty cool. I will say by the end of the weekend, I was done walking around in my boots. But because there was just a lot of that, like,
Hell
I want
yeah.
to see that band, but it's going to take me like 10 minutes to walk over there. And then I want to see this other band. So I'm going to have to walk another 15 minutes back. And, but I mean, the play in the show was incredible though. I mean, we got the privilege of being added on a little bit late, because we had played Incarceration, and I guess Danny's team really liked it, and so they had a band that had some scheduling issues and had to shift around, and
Okay.
so they reached out to us and asked us to fill that spot on main stage opening on Saturday, and we're like, yeah, 100%.
Heck yeah.
And like it's just, I mean, the professionalism that their hired help brings, and then like the actual Danny Wimmer team are just like so locked in to making sure that everybody's being taken care of. And then yeah, it made it easy for us to kind of show up and do our thing and really just kind of have that great moment with those fans.
Heck yeah.
And it's important because like especially a festival like that, like I mean, festival tickets aren't cheap, and for a lot of people, like this is their one concert for the year and stuff like that. So, you know, we really want to be able to go out and like play as hard of a 30-minute set as we can to make sure that they're getting what they can out of it. And yeah, it's such a cool experience, and it's kind of fun watching some of these bands who are for sure like arena headliners and stuff like that getting a 30-minute set, and it's like, what of all of their hits are they going to play in this 30-minute set? So
Right.
it kind of makes it fun in that regard too.
Yeah.
Was there a great, like, talk about the camaraderie amongst the musicians while you were there and what you experienced as you guys probably talked with some of the other musicians, some of the other acts that were on the festival?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's kind of nice because I think the old days of like, the just huge egos and drugs and everything, like being the center of music. And I'm not saying that that stuff doesn't exist, like there's for sure a lot of both of those, but like I don't feel like it's the core of the scene anymore. And so like I think a great example is Funeral Portrait played right after us, and so like they watched some of our set, we watched some of their set, while we're setting up and tearing down. But then, I ran into guitar player a little bit later and just randomly like, "Hey man, really great set. You guys sound great." And then he and I stood there and talked for like 20 minutes.
Heck yeah.
And yeah, it's just, especially in like the artist and media areas and stuff like that, where it's just kind of like people hanging out and kind of letting their guard down a little bit. Like it's a very positive scene. I think for the most part, a lot of people, are respectful, and like it's really nice to see that, like, some of those horror stories of like, oh yeah, they're a really great band, but they're kind of assholes, and so it's nice to
Right,
see that that's not always the case.
right. Well, that's why I wanted to ask you about the camaraderie amongst musicians, because I do see a shift in today's times, and I think it's so important because I remember a time when bands would just be douchey to other bands or like, just wouldn't give them the time of day, would kind of snub other bands and not be supportive. And
Yeah.
so I've seen a shift, and I wanted to ask you about that. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that's kind of crazy is that like people who listen to music aren't going to exclusively only listen to one band. I mean, look at all
Right,
your posters and stuff behind you. Like all of those are really great bands, and you are a fan of all of them. And like
right,
that's awesome. That's the way it's supposed to be. So sometimes like that ego thing in the past really kind of always weirded me out. When it's like you're not vying for the one single fan. Like they can like both of our bands, and there's no reason why
right.
they shouldn't.
Yeah.
So speaking of liking all the bands, uh, one big dog, one top dog, if you could collaborate with anybody, alive or gone, who would that be?
Ooh, that is a great question. Um, um, you know, I think honestly, like, and this may be a little corny, but kind of going back to like that Beatles thing, like, I always felt that George Harrison was like one of my favorites and a little understated. And like the guy is just, I don't know. I thought he wrote great songs. I thought he brought a weird
Right.
kind of fun spin to things like that. And I mean, I have no idea what that song would even sound like, but I feel like it'd be a lot of fun. I mean, Paul McCartney's done a lot of like more modern rock songs and stuff like that with different artists like Dave Grohl. So it'd probably turn out all right. But I think that he would be a great person to kind of just hang out with.
I definitely think that would make for an interesting mix.
Yeah, most definitely. So normally I'd have 3 questions for you, Bob,
Okay.
like I ask anyone, but Reggie asked my second question, which is the collab. So
Hmm.
I have 2 questions for you.
Okay.
And so, what's a moment in your life that really shaped who you are today?
Oh man. That's a great question. I think I think, I mean, especially in the context of music, because like I said, I've always been playing some sort of music and stuff like that. And like the first band I formed with some friends in high school, we went by the name Five Knuckle Shuffle, um, and I think the first time, that was like the first time I really like performed rock music in front of somebody. It was at like one of those like high school talent show type things. And it was one of those like, I expected to be really nervous and all this other stuff. And I kind of was, but as soon as we started playing, I was like, oh, this feels right. Like something about this like just clicks. And so, I mean, that moment's kind of hung with me quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
Heck yeah.
So for the second one now,
Hmm.
what's one thing people would be surprised to know about you?
I think it's kind of top of mind because Dakota mentioned it in an interview last weekend at Louder Than Life. But I think a lot of people would be surprised like how kind of handy I am. My wife and I own 8.5 acres out in the middle of a wheat field, and we bought a 130-year-old house that we have basically taken down to studs and are remodeling
Oh,
and
wow.
building back up. And yeah, I don't know. I just really enjoy doing a lot of that stuff and have acquired a few skill sets, and some of it I just kind of make up as I go. But you know, yeah, I really enjoy that kind of stuff, and I think that I mean I don't like hide it, but it doesn't always come through in the music and stuff like that. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I know my way around some stuff.
Yeah,
Heck yeah.
it's always good, man, to be able to do stuff on your own.
Yeah.
I mean, plus it's cheaper, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I always laugh because there was a meme a couple of years ago that really kind of hit home because it was like, how do you know how to do all this stuff? It's like I grew up poor. Like
Yeah.
we just had to figure it out.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
The
so,
only way this getting fixed is if I run that skill saw.
Yeah.
well,
Well, thankfully, I did home restoration for 10 years before my current job. So I learned a lot of things of what to do and what not to do. And there's a lot to not do, I promise.
Oh,
For
for
sure.
sure.
So we're coming up on an hour, guys. So if you have any other questions,
I do.
if you want to ask Bob, I know that he's on a bus, so I figure we'll try to keep it to an hour.
Bob, one that's still fresh, and I've been asking all the bands because it's still fresh, and you guys are a metal band. What, if at all, did affect you and the other band members when we lost our godfather, Ozzy?
I definitely think that it was a very pivotal moment as far as like that was like a very long generation. Like, I mean, he had influenced stuff since, the late 60s, early 70s, and like been so prevalent. If I could be a little cheeky, like I'm a little surprised that he made it as long as he did. Like I think it's awesome. But like he was not living a life that was survivable there for a while. So it
Right.
was kind of inspiring to see him be able to get a hold of the reins and get that under control. Cause I mean, like people like him and Nikki Sixx, like they were as famous for their partying as they were for their music. And the fact
Gosh,
that they were able to like rein it in does, I think, give hope to a lot of people who feel like they may not be able to. Like it's like, there's the odds are in your favor if you're able to find the right resources.
absolutely.
So I think that was really kind of my biggest takeaway. It was like I feel blessed that we got him as long as we did, and like all of the things he was able to contribute. But I mean, I think the guy also definitely had earned a rest. So
Right.
Definitely.
As we're coming up on an hour, where can everybody find your music, and tell everybody about your tour dates and the projects you have coming up?
yeah, absolutely. So we are currently on tour, and all of those dates are on our website, which is silenttheory.com. You can also find links to all of our music videos and all of our other socials like Spotify, things like that. If you start listening to music and feel inspired, definitely head over to like Instagram, Facebook, that kind of stuff, and give us that thumbs up. It does make a difference. Plus, we like to see you. I like to see that you're listening. But yeah, so like I kind of mentioned at the top of this, like our year is kind of rounding out like publicly with this tour. But we do have a few songs in the can already. And I think our big goal for the rest of this year, and probably the first part of next year, is working on new music and getting some of that stuff ready to go so we can start another release campaign of getting some new music out there and hopefully hit that with like spring and summer dates. But yeah, definitely silenttheory.com is a great place to check, stay up to date on all that kind of stuff. Plus we have a a link to our merch store if you really dig the music and want to get a T-shirt or something like that. We got lots of that stuff available.
Heck yeah. Thank you
Hell
so
yeah.
much.
Hey,
Yeah,
Bob,
Yes, sir.
to close everything out, I know we've talked about this song a few times throughout the interview. I would like to play Fragile Minds, and then
Absolutely.
go after that. We can do the outro. And
Sounds good.
but yeah,
Reggie, you're going to love this one.
yeah, Reggie.
Yeah, this is my favorite.
Cut me open, and you'll find a brain, heart, liver, lungs, and a knife in the spine. It's chilling to know that the last place you go might be where the fat lady sings. Does it hurt? I don't know. And where do we go? We don't chase fragile minds with such things. So sell me down the river. First help me sell my soul. It's something I know I can deliver. I think we finally broke the mold. It's getting harder to know if I'm sane. My issues are leaking outside of my veins. Somebody save me or end me. I haven't yet made up my mind. If it leads to paranoia, boy, you might want to hit the floor before exposure leads to a metamorphosis we can't ignore. Lost in the whisper and hung on a prayer. If you don't know where you're going, anyone will take you there. So sell me down the river. First help me sell my soul. It's something I know I can deliver. I think we finally broke the mold. Will I be an end to someone's destiny? Who's to know? And will I give right in to my aggression? Who's to know? Will I fall apart
I just
Alright.
want to say that drummer is so tight and
Yeah.
precise.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Mitch doesn't always get the credit he deserves. Like, he's an incredible drummer.
A
Wow.
wise man once said, "Let the drummer get some," and he was right.
Absolutely.
I can tell you what, Bob, I do appreciate you allowing us to play you guys' life work on our podcast
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I love sharing the different bands that come on the show. We share their story, we share where they came from and where they're at now and where they plan to go. And if we can acquire one more viewer, one more listener for you guys, we have accomplished, everything because this is what we're
Yep.
about, man. You know, um, these guys that you see on here and the voice in the background, we just enjoy sharing other bands' success and story. And I do appreciate the time that you've had for us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for
So,
having me.
yeah. So that's a wrap on today's episode of BSing with Y Eagle Y. Big love to the band Silent Theory and Bob for hanging
Yes.
with
Thank
us
you.
and sharing the sound and story. Y'all go check them out, support their music, and until next time, keep it real, keep it loud, and keep on BSing. All right, Bob.